wonderful speakers. She's a great speaker here. And would you welcome all the way from the Gold Coast, Grace Merrick. Thank you, Grace.
There we are, I'm unmuted. Thank you very much, Bill. It's lovely to be here. I've really enjoyed this morning, except that everybody was snitching my talk before I got to do it, because everyone's on the same page already. So basically I could say, okay, goodbye, we can go home and have fun. But I'm very happy to be here with you in Melbourne and say hello to everybody. And the title of my talk is Who is Calling? And it just came to me like that. And I've been sort of playing with it over the last few days, thinking, you know, how can I look at this in a way that I can present it? And it dawned on me that we really need to know and believe, we've heard this in some of the songs and what's been read, that we are in cosmic timing. We're not just here little puddles on this particular block of land. We are part of a universal consciousness, and Unity's always talked about that, and we'll talk about that a little bit more later. But we're in the cosmos, and the cosmos is in us. And we've been told this in various ways, various times. There is only one presence and one power in the universe, and it is God. And it is good. So if there's only one presence in the universe, that proves that we are part of that universal oneness. And I saw a lovely illustration, you know, a few months ago, that was a square like that, and it had lines down there, and everything in it was formed into little squares in this big square. And in the little square in the corner over here was a picture of the world and the trees and the people and all that sort of stuff, an indication that everything was in that little square. And then all the other little squares had the same picture in them, all the way around this little picture, all the way inside this big square, showing that we were truly part of the universe. Now, getting that is really, really important for us, because it's much more fun than thinking that we're little separate things out here and God and what have you is up there. I laugh, I'm sorry, I'm a bit rude. I laugh to myself when people go saying to me, you know, and I ask God to give me. And they point up as if they're talking about God in the heaven. But where is the God? The Godness is within us. And when I say, I ask God, I ask God, I ask God in me to bring peace to my mind, whatever it is I want. And in every cell of our body, every cell is this universal creative energy that we call God. Every cell. So when we have something wrong with us, as we do from time to time, and I've got something going on in my body that's there that does some stuff to me, I've always had something going on. It's always for me to get to have that presence of God there to help heal me of feeling there's something wrong with me. One of the things that I read that really blew my mind about was that we're more connected than we know, but we tend to think that we're more connected with bad, that there's something wrong with us. Part of us have been brought up with a religious background that suggested that we were miserable sinners, and that's possibly stuck, and it's around and we hear it. Sin means missing the mark, but we do miss the mark so often when things are going on in us. Everything's in timing. You know, it's all about divine order. The whole universe is all about divine order and timing. And a lot of those songs this morning were implying that this was all in a divine pattern of the timing. And that's more and more clear. Everything is in divine order. Everything. Now, that's a bit harder to believe, But the cosmic physiologists and scientists tell us that this is true. In fact, it is all in divine order. It is in order. We're all connected much more than we know and believe. Most of the day I walk around, cheerfully going about my business and not being totally aware of the connectedness. And then something will happen or someone will say something and I'll feel uncomfortable. And then I have to go back to my sense of connectedness. And sometimes the things that happen that are uncomfortable are actually gifts that are bringing me back to finding out my connectedness. Because lots of things go on around us that we don't particularly like. And we think that they might be aimed at us or something like that. And when we get that feeling, it's necessary to go right back to this presence and power is within me. And I tell myself, walk around the house saying, it's in every cell, it's in every cell. I know sometimes I think to myself, are you really meaning that? And I have to check myself out. Am I really meaning that it is in every cell? And I have to stop and get myself centered again. And then I can hear who's calling. We're all more connected than we know. Fear, I got this message recently. Fear is only an illusion. It is the illusion that creates the feeling of separateness, the false sense of isolation that exists only in our imagination. And that's a quote by a woman called Geraldine Saunders. Fear is only an illusion because we are one and we are connected. And now we realize that we are interconnected with everything in the universe and with every person. We're interconnected somehow with everyone on the planet, including, and this is throwing something out at you, people that we have considered at war with us or with other people on the planet. And there are lots of presences and powers out there that appear to be at war. However, they are really moving the energy, and we have the opportunity to see the presence of peace, plenty, and love in the situation until it actually manifests itself as such. We have the job of seeing the peace and power and plenty. That's pretty deep, but let's try it. I'm all for it. We are one, we are all connected, we are interdependent. We're all parts of the whole. We're not separate from each other, except in the mind, in our sense of full sense of reality, as we come to understand our connectedness. As we have a sense of disconnectedness, we are given the opportunity to fix it and get it to see that is somehow mysteriously, magically, wonderfully, spiritually connected. We don't have to see how it's connected exactly. We just have to believe that everything in this universe is connected. We're all parts of the whole. We're not really separate from each other, except in our mind and our full sense of reality. And we feel as if we're separate from people, but we know we really aren't. We come to understand that our connectedness is really there and not in our sense of separation. Our sense of separation is about fear. It brings fear. Our sense of separation is something we've made up. We see ourselves separate because we want to feel special. We are special, but we're all special. And getting it that we are all equally important in the cosmic reality of God's love and creativeness can take an awful lot of weight off our shoulders and a lot of worry out of our way. I'm sure you all know what it's like to get into that beautiful place where you suddenly feel, oh, yes, I am part of that whole. Everybody here, I'm sure, has been doing meditation and knows what I'm talking about. But getting it while we're walking around amongst people who are doing things, that's the time where I have the most work to do. I have one particular person who lives in this organization that I live in, and it becomes very difficult to be around the energy and the activity and the words and so forth that this person uses. However, I have to do what I can to stay within me, to say I am safe, I am whole, I am free, I am love, and then get to radiate the love out to this person who is storming around, raging. And that's the way it has to be with my thoughts when they're doing it. Because I can assure you, I'm not, I'm not Miss Prissy Perfect who never, ever gets upset. But if I get annoyed about something and I'm in there and I'm raging inside myself, that's the time for me to stop and say, "Oi, just a minute, lady, get within yourself. Find that place of connectedness. See where you can find that there is something there that you can appreciate in this situation. Just stop fussing and get into seeing that there is a place of peace." Because we're always talking about peace. We sing the peace song, we go on and on about peace. And we have to find that peace inside ourselves, do we not? I'm sure you all agree that it's a lovely place to find the peace. And we can all do it all the time. As we come to understand our connectedness and our need for one another to complete the whole of our creativeness, our fears will die. As we can see that connectedness, fear disappears. Because one of the things is we have fear because we see separation. If we stop seeing the separation, if we begin to enjoy the connectedness of spirit, we will not have the fear. That's a thought, isn't it? The people in the people in our lives, we meet up with others, we meet up with ourselves, and we meet up with others who may have the same opinion as the person who's expressing something. And we know that they are all children of God, expressions of God, and they're all looking for peace. And we can say, peace is yours. Love is yours. Peace be with you. Because Jesus did this all the time. He was always saying, peace be with you. And the disciples were taught to keep preaching peace. But we can see differences in things and have peace at the same time. Hope that makes sense to you. I really do, because I really want to get that through. People are our reflection. That's one of the quotes that we've got here going. They have perhaps parts of ourselves we've not yet learned to love. And these people are doing things that we have probably reflected, and we haven't found out how to love them in ourselves. So if we can see in ourselves how we're doing whatever we are criticizing in them, we're doing it to ourselves, we can then invite God in to heal us and to save us from our distraction, from our separation. Because we're always wanting to be not separate. That's the whole thing on the planet. What we're doing is I desire to gain the sense of oneness with all and not have the sense of separation breaking me apart. This is often really hard. And the people out there who are doing these things that we don't like are probably, possibly, representing parts of ourselves that we do to ourselves, parts of our own internal behavior of criticism, of dislike, of nastiness that we do to ourselves. If we just check out every day how many times we say something nasty to ourselves. We'll be really, really surprised. And healing that is so much part of what the oneness thing's all about. We find little bits of intolerance, don't we? We find little bits of greed. I think there are little tiny bits of greed that you might have running around in you sometime during the week. Little tiny bits of greed. I'm not saying big greed, but it's there. Fears, we can't. How many fears can we uncover if we're really honest with ourselves about what's going on inside us and what we're feeling from other people presenting to us? See, these fears come in from outside and how we deal with them inside ourselves. And we cover ourselves up and we pretend we're not afraid, but we've got the fear running in there and it keeps on manifesting. So the thing to do is to be looking at the lack of separation from what other people are doing and what's going on, and find the presence of God that removes the fear. And we can also free ourselves. We can free ourselves from that, but we can free other people from it, because when people are doing something nasty to us, they're usually having a lot of fear and unhappiness and so forth inside themselves. If we can let go of our taking it all personally and being upset about it, and just see them with love, see ourselves with love and pass it on to them, love and peace can just be given to them, and they can feel it or not, but they're much more likely to feel it if we give it to them. And they cannot feel separate from us because we're giving them what they want, which is love and acceptance. And even if we don't like what they're doing, we can still be giving love, saying, oh, sweetie, you'd be doing better if you knew better, but let's see you knowing better. And we can have these thoughts in our minds to see them feeling more peace. Like this person I'm talking about who lives in this establishment with me. If I think about him and go, it's not going to do any good, it's only going to make it worse. But when I think about him and get into my heart and say, oh, sweetheart, please feel peace, please feel okay. Yes, you're okay. And do that, I feel a whole lot better. And hopefully it gets through to him eventually. We find bits and pieces of greed, fear, and condemnation tucked within us, hidden, but we can forgive. When we see this presence and power of God, the good, and love them and face them, free them, we free ourselves and we have more love instead of feeling hating. And that's beautiful. We like that. So no person situation is too big to be handled by us. We can get to see all the goodness in these folk very easily if we stop many times a day and I look at what's going on in me and see if there is this separation that I can see with other people and say, oh, I need to go inside me and feel the presence of God. And so when I look at things and see the connections, there's no wonder who's calling. Who's calling? Who is calling? My soul wanting me to heal the sense of separation in any form that I have on this planet, the sense of separation from God the good. So let's take a moment now to turn within and acknowledge that sometimes we do let go of that connectedness, that sometimes we do allow ourselves to feel separate, different, fearful, angry, upset by other people, by other situations, by what's going on in the world. One day we can see that peace will come through everything. If we start looking for the peace now, worldwide, in our lives and in the lives of the people around us, we will get to that peace more quickly. So let's take a moment now to turn within, into our inner soul, that part of us that is made in the image and likeness of God and is exactly the same as every other soul in the universe, and get into our soul and know that we are made in the image and likeness of God, that we are wholly and perfectly made with all the ability to see connectedness everywhere, in everything, because we all are part of the whole. No matter what's going on, somewhere in there is the connectedness with the whole spirit of creative energy. And just for a moment, if we can get the calling from our soul to say, I am responsible. I am responsible for peace in my heart. I am responsible for love and caring in my heart, in my being. And I am responsible for acknowledging the connectedness with every possible person on this planet, in this fellowship of love. I am responsible for caring and for seeing the oneness in every part of God's universe. So let's just play with that for a moment, feeling responsible for seeing the oneness, no matter what the appearance might be. We have the power to see the truth and affirm the truth of oneness in the universe and on the planet and in our lives. And we already had today's daily word read to us. And it's beautiful, absolutely beautiful. I bravely release outworn behaviors and embrace my bright, brilliant future. I will let go and let God. And so it is. Amen.
Amen. I invite you now